Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Real Beef. I'm Don Keith, and today I don't have a beef. I have a thank you to Tommy Robinson and to everyone out there who subscribed to and watched our last video, which skyrocketed after Tommy echoed it on his Parler account. Now, since then, a lot of folks here in the U.S. have commented or asked me just who exactly is Tommy Robinson, because since he has had some media attention here in the United States, he doesn't quite have the rock star status he has in the U.K. So today's show is all about Tommy, what he stands for, and what he means to the people of the U.K., and ultimately to all of us around the world who stand for freedom, justice, and equality, and Western values. All that when we come back on The Real Beef.
Join me, Don Keith, in my quest for truth and answers to all my beefs, here on The Real Beef.
Hey there, folks, and welcome back. Well, today my show is all about Tommy Robinson, a British loyalist and patriot who's probably one of the most polarizing figures to emerge in that region of the globe since William Wallace. Now, I personally learned about Tommy a couple of years ago when I saw news reports of a man in the UK who had actually been arrested for reporting on the trial of a large group of Muslim men who were the leaders of what is referred to in the UK as rape gangs or grooming gangs. Now, that man was Tommy Robinson. And since then, I've been kind of loosely following along with Tommy and trying to keep up with his activism and all of his great works there in the UK. Now, I couldn't possibly do any justice to Tommy in the time that I have on this show, so I'm going to try to hit the high points for you guys and avoid a full biography. Now, I know a lot of you out there are probably asking yourself, why does Don Keith care so much about Tommy Robinson and what's happening in the United Kingdom? But rather than explain it to you, I'll let Tommy tell you himself.
America's going to see firsthand what's going to happen, how their freedoms will be under attack. This is what's happening. This is coming your way.
And so basically, if you look at how the progressive left in this country is trying to bring about an open borders policy, the result of that would look eerily similar to what it looks like in Tommy's country, where we would just allow an uncontrollable influx of anti-Western, anti-Christian immigrants into this country who want to destroy our way of life by either subjugating us, converting us, or dominating us by sheer force of numbers and fear tactics such as gang rape and basically instituting Sharia law in this country. Now, if you think that sounds like conspiracy theory, look no further than our United States Congress, where we already have a refugee from Somalia serving in Congress who wants to destroy capitalism and usher in fascism and communism and take away our right of free speech. Now, I'm talking about Representative Ilhan Omar, who praises Al-Qaeda. And the only other Muslim in Congress, who is Rashida Tlaib, she also holds the same views as Ilhan Omar. Now, I want to be clear here that I am not referring to all Muslims, because I believe the majority of immigrants, whether Christian, Jew, or Muslim, who come here fleeing oppression and war-torn countries are coming here because they truly want a better life for their families, and they don't wish us any harm. But there will always be a radical element in any mass migration of folks who will never assimilate, okay, just like in the United Kingdom. So let's talk about the United Kingdom and Tommy Robinson. So Tommy grew up in the town of Luton there in Bedfordshire, UK, where since he was a boy, he witnessed the rise of radical Islam and Pakistani rape gangs. Now, according to Tommy, the town of Luton has gone from one mosque since 1982 to now having 30 mosques. Now, while not all of these mosques represent the radical element, there are members who work with gangs of Asian men, what we call Middle Easterners here, to provide them with heroin, which they have declared to be used as a chemical jihad, or sword that is used to rape and drug English white girls in Luton and towns like it all across England. Tommy even had a cousin named Jeanette who was a victim of these gangs. But it wasn't just the rapes that have shaped Tommy Robinson. It's the multiple acts of violence and assault he personally suffered from the gangs and witnessing others in his community being terrorized as well, some even murder, such as his uncle's friend, a guy named Mark Sharp, which was a highly publicized case there, not just because of the heinous crime, but because of the ridiculous ruling as well. You see, Mark Sharp was murdered by a gang of radical Pakistani Muslims. Basically what happened is the Pakistani gang did some hard braking in their vehicle that was in front of Mark. So he, of course, was forced to do some hard braking of his own before he continued around them and gave them a hand gesture as he passed. Now, basically an everyday occurrence in New York City or elsewhere, right? You know, folks get a little road rage and they flip someone off and keep going. But not if you're a Pakistani gang, apparently, because this gang of radical Muslims decided Mark's payment for flipping them off should be that they follow him to the kebab shop where he was headed with his son, after they call up more of their buddies to meet them there on the phone, okay? Then they proceed to beat the living hell out of this guy with bats and pipes before one of them stabs him in the forehead, all resulting in Mark's death 3 days later. And so then the men who murdered Mark Sharp were only given 4 years for his brutal murder because the judge in the case told the jury they could take into account that Mark aggravated the gang or provoked them, okay, because he flipped the guys off, okay, and drove away in a ridiculously small traffic incident. Okay, and so that's just what the jury did. They convicted these murderers of manslaughter, gave them 4 years in prison, and they were out in 2, free to roam the streets of Luton town once again. Now listen to me, you ignorant judge, whoever you are. If a guy in another vehicle flips you off and you have time to follow him to an establishment, call all of your friends on the phone to meet you there, okay, and then you kill the guy, well, you had plenty of time to think about your actions and cool off. That's not provoked manslaughter. That's premeditated murder, you genius. But guys, that's not even the most ridiculous adjudication that's occurred there, because there was another instance where the daughters of 2 white fathers were being raped in an apartment, and when the father went to rescue their daughters, it was the fathers who were arrested by the police. Okay? And in another, an 11-year-old girl was being raped by 5 Muslim men. And when the police arrived at the scene, they arrested the 11-year-old on a drunken and disorderly charge. Okay. Now, this is all according to Tommy. Okay, that's the kind of crap Tommy had to deal with growing up in this town. And people all across the UK have had to deal with this. Okay. But let's keep going here, because it isn't just the murder and the rape and the assault that's helped to shape Tommy Robinson, the man. It's also the politics and the media and their efforts to minimize or even cover up the enormity of the problem with the Islamization of the United Kingdom, even going so far as to discriminate against whites and Christians there. One example is banning English citizens from flying the flag of St. George's Cross, okay, in many locations, while allowing Asians or Middle Easterners to fly the flag of ISIS freely. Okay, now does that sound familiar to you guys here in the States? Does that sound familiar? Do you guys remember when students here in the U.S. were banned from wearing T-shirts depicting the American flag on Cinco de Mayo, but Hispanic students were allowed to wear shirts depicting the Mexican flag? Okay, see, that's called leftist progressive cancer. It's exactly what that is. But back to Tommy, okay? I think the final straw for him was when he witnessed the mistreatment of British soldiers who had been either killed or horribly wounded in battle. He witnessed them being called murderers and baby killers, and even being spat upon and assaulted by Muslims who were there to greet them upon their return, shouting things like, "British troops burn in hell."
British soldiers burn in hell! 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 British soldiers burn in hell!
And then when the people of Luton wanted to celebrate their war heroes on Armistice Day, the police refused to even let citizens enter the war memorial there to honor them for fear of the Muslim population. Now, for a British patriot like Tommy Robinson, that was a hard pill to swallow. And so I can sympathize with Tommy because I love my country too. And I love our soldiers who fight for our freedom. So what did Tommy do after that? Well, he founded the EDL, or the English Defense League. And that's when his rise to fame and his upward trajectory kicked into high gear. And unfortunately, that's also when the target was painted on his back. You see, because as soon as it was founded and their mission statement was realized, which was to protest radical Islam, and as soon as their membership started to grow, the media and leftist politicians labeled them a racist, white supremacist organization. It's the exact same thing they do to Donald Trump here. Okay, as soon as his political star began to rise, and as soon as he became a threat to their Marxist vision for America, the media went into overdrive to sear the racist narrative into the psyche of American citizens. Okay, even though Trump was a media darling before, Jesse Jackson loved him, Al Sharpton loved him. They all praised him for his philanthropic work in the urban communities. The rappers all wanted to be him. And the Democrats begged him for donations. But as soon as he declared his Republican candidacy, Donald Trump became a Nazi, fascist, white supremacist. How do Americans fall for this garbage? I just don't understand it. Okay, but in fact, it was the Nazis, specifically Joseph Goebbels, who said a lie told once is a lie, but a lie told 1,000 times becomes the truth. Okay, so that's the goal of the media with Tommy Robinson and Trump alike. He's a racist, he's a racist, he's a racist. If you say it enough times in the mainstream media, some people are going to believe it. And so that's really what happened with the EDL, the English Defense League, as well. The media called it a far-right organization full of racists. And so what happened with the EDL is that not only did the Marxist left all start to believe the media lie, but actual extremists started to infiltrate the organization, and a more far-right fringe element began to develop. Okay, of course, now, in any organization, there is likely to be persona non grata. Okay, it doesn't matter if it's the NAACP or the Log Cabin Republicans or your nearest bowling league. You'll probably find some racist assholes in there as well, because racism isn't a legislative issue. It's a people issue. It's a humanity problem. And just like thieves, murderers, and rapists, there will always be racists. Okay, but now the stated goal of the EDL, like I said, was simply to organize protests to counter radical extremist Islam. So I can't speak to where the organization and its beliefs are today because I don't know enough about them currently. But I do know that Tommy Robinson, fearing the organization might become more extremist, decided to formally quit the group, saying he wanted to counter the Islamist ideology not with violence, but with better democratic ideas. So, I mean, that doesn't sound like a racist to me. That sounds like a guy who is genuinely concerned about the state of his country and will do whatever is necessary to unite its citizens, even if that means losing loyal followers, because now many in the EDL have called Tommy a traitor and disavowed him because of his departure from the group. Okay, I mean, here's a guy who has risked everything to save these poor girls from being raped and to save his country from being Islamized by radicals. And the thanks he's gotten has been death threats on him and his family. He's been personally assaulted. He's been vilified in the media. And he's gone to prison. That guy is a national treasure, period. And so since leaving the EDL, Tommy has become an independent journalist, reporting not only on radical Islam, but also tackling tough issues like Black Lives Matter and Marxist ideology that plague his nation and ours. Okay, Tommy is doing God's work. I truly believe that. And he's doing his part to save Western civilization. So it's my hope that the citizens of the UK and of the United States and of nations around the world who believe in things like equality and free speech and freedom of religion, okay, and capitalism will stand with Tommy. Okay, and the individuals in our own countries who are just like Tommy, we have to stand with those guys. You know, we have people here in the U.S., people like Laura Loomer and Candace Owens, and the latest revolutionary who I just love, this woman, Bevelyn Beatty, who has put her own freedom in jeopardy by defacing these Marxist BLM, Black Lives Matter murals that are painted on public property that our tax dollars are funding. These are the people we need to support. Okay, we all need to start speaking out. It's time. The silent majority can no longer be silent. The revolution has already begun. Okay, you're going to have to pick a side. So if you're a patriot out there and you're one of those who doesn't want to be judged or called a racist for simply voicing your opinion, so you stay silent, I want you to think about the logic of your reason, because the very fear that you are experiencing has percolated and festered in our society because we've already remained silent for too long. So don't be afraid. We're not in a race war. There's not going to be a race war in this country. We're in a war of ideologies. I mean, just think about it. When you go to work every day or school every day, are you in a race war with your black coworker or your white coworker? Are you guys in a race war like the media wants you to believe? No, you're not. Okay? You go to work, you go to school every day, you get along like decent Americans and human beings. You see, the Marxists need to divide us all before they can conquer us. That's what the BLM organization is all about. And I'm so glad to see, prominent blacks like Terry Crews and Charles Barkley are starting to speak out against the Black Lives Matter organization itself. Okay, I'll take all the common sense individuals I can get. Okay. Anyway, all right, guys. Well, that's going to do it for me. All right. I hope you all learned a lot about Tommy Robinson and who he is. But, don't take it from me. Here's a couple of links to videos where you can listen to Tommy yourself. And I'll also put the links in the description of this video below. I also have a speech of him in front of the Danish, I believe it's the Danish Parliament, where he just absolutely eviscerates the media and exposes their video editing, manipulation, and censorship of him. You guys really need to check that video out. It's extremely interesting. Because if you Google the guy, you're going to get a lot of BS social media and search engine manipulated garbage about what a terrible, terrible racist he is. I mean, you guys need to listen to Tommy, who has stated his entire life that he absolutely is not a racist, and he welcomes anyone of any skin color who shares his loyalist, conservative, nationalist values. That's Tommy Robinson, a patriot, okay? King and country kind of guy. So anyway, guys, that's going to do it for me. I appreciate you all watching. If you would do me a favor and hit the like and subscribe button on this video, subscribe to our podcast as well, like our Facebook, Twitter, and Parler pages. I'll put the links to all of those in the description to this video below. Thank you all for watching. I'm Don Keith, and this has been The Real Beef.
Join me, Don Keith, in my quest for truth and answers to all my beefs, here on The Real Beef.